you so much for joining me for this year's Leeds Millions Missing 2021. It's been a hard year for all of us, and as the UK was forced into lockdown, many of us reflected. People with ME are no stranger to a life indoors. 25% of people with the disease are housebound, and that's why this year we are forced to unite online, campaign from our bedrooms, and support each other via social media. More and more people are visiting the doctor following long-term effects after COVID-19. We are seeing a tsunami wave of chronically ill people joining our community, and that is why this year's Millions Missing is more important than ever before. Since organising Leeds' first ever Millions Missing protest in 2019, I've joined ME Action's UK and Scotland teams. I'm also in close contact with Leeds ME Network. In February, I also launched my own website, ME and Me. It's been a busy year launching ME and Me, campaigning alongside ME Action UK and Scotland and working towards the newly drafted NICE guidelines. I've written to Professor Chris Whitty on behalf of ME Action UK regarding the placement of people with ME on the JCVI priority list, and entrusted to interview Ron Davis and Janet Dafoe and fought to keep ME awareness in our local press. ME activism is a huge part of my life, as I'd like to fight for better health equality and for all of our futures. NICE estimates that around 250,000 people in the UK have the disease. That means around 7,500 people in Leeds alone may have ME. So join me today as we take our campaign online. We'll catch up with ME Action regarding this year's Millions Missing, speak to Leeds ME Network and your ME community. We'll also hear from Janet Dafoe on being a full-time carer for her son Whitney. You can follow this year's Leeds Millions Missing campaign on Leeds Millions Missing official Facebook page and on the website www.me-and-me.blog. Thank you so much for joining me today and supporting Leeds Millions Missing 2021. Keep your eyes peeled as over the next 2 hours, interviews and stories will go live. Have a fantastic Millions Missing. I'm very excited to catch up with Denise and Janet from ME Action's UK and Scotland teams. What most people don't realise is that it's a small team of volunteers that keeps ME Action going. They've both been working incredibly hard preparing for this year's Millions Missing. Can you first explain to me the main aim and message of this year's Millions Missing event?
This year we want to let people with ME know that they are not alone. There are lots of people who are really engaged with ME and reaching out to help. So we were astonished when we reached out to researchers, authors, MPs. Almost everybody we asked wanted to do an interview and support people with ME, so which is fantastic. So the theme is You're Not Alone, and also millions more to reflect the fact that after COVID we may have more people with ME. So what we have done, we've got a fantastic range of interviews from Ron Davis and Janet Dafoe. On the research side, we have MPs, we have Marcus Sedgwick as well as an author, we have Stuart Murdoch giving a message. So it's going to be a fantastic day of interviews. They are all going to be recorded, so if you miss any, go to the ME Action UK website and you'll find a link and you'll be able to watch them at your own pace.
I mean, that all sounds fantastic. I mean, what have you asked people to do this Millions Missing?
We are asking them to do several things. We're asking them to watch the videos. We are asking them to, we have asked people to decorate their windows and reflect the themes of Millions Missing, what they're missing out on life, and send us their pictures. So look out on social media for some fantastic photos of people's windows.
Yeah, we've also been running a campaign that some of you may have seen to ask people to write to their local newspaper. It's called Letters to Editor campaign, and there's more details on the website. And the idea is to try and increase the amount of coverage that people are getting in their papers by making local papers aware of local people with ME. And if you get a chance, watch local events. We've been running an event all day today, but watch your local events like Leeds. Make the most of that.
And how have you found kind of organising events virtually? Obviously everything's online at the moment. Has that changed the way that you've had to do things?
Yeah, I mean, it's very challenging organising an online event, but it's equally challenging, I would say, and I'm sure Denise would agree with this, and you, Charlie, as well, organising something in person. So with a virtual event, it feels, to me anyway, like it's a huge responsibility because we're organising a more national event in Scotland, and for the UK, we've been organising that. So we feel a bigger sense of responsibility. Obviously, working with other people is great online because you can organise everything online. I guess the margin for error is slightly less because if something goes wrong on the day, it goes, but it's everywhere. You can see the mistakes everywhere. And of course, one of the things about doing Millions Missing in person is you get to meet people. You get that real sense of community, and you get to meet the volunteers and people you've been in communication with over the year. So I've kind of missed that last year, and this year is not meeting all the people I work with locally up in Scotland here. So yeah, definitely a challenge, and here's hoping everybody's enjoying the day.
I'm sure it's going to be a really, really successful day. But obviously, it's not just Millions Missing when Emmy Action is busy. You've been busy all year. What have you guys been up to recently?
Well, at the very end of last year, we were incredibly busy going over the new NICE draft guideline. I mean, we went over it line by line, word by word. So that was very challenging, but I think very worthwhile, and fingers crossed for the updated guidelines in August. We have also been keeping watch on mentions of ME and long COVID in the press, and reaching out to any journalist across the country who has mentioned either, giving them more facts, inviting them to get in touch with us and learn more about ME. So that's something you may not necessarily see until an article comes out, but that has kept us busy as well. A lot of our volunteers are also involved in other things like the Decode ME and the JLA Priority Setting Partnership. And we have also been lobbying MPs, and Matt Hancock in particular. We were trying to get ME listed as a priority for vaccination. So we and people in our local groups have been lobbying their MPs and working really hard on that.
In Scotland, we have particular challenges. We're really running a parliamentary campaign for the Scottish Government, which has devolved powers for health. So there's recently been a Scottish election where we had people write to their MSPs and ask them to make them aware of ME and tell them things that they could do. We've been very much involved with NICE as well, which affects Scotland, and pushing for people in Scotland to be given the COVID vaccination along with the rest of the UK. We also work on projects like, at the moment, we're working on a project with Action for ME to disseminate Nina Muirhead's training module in Scotland, which has got funding from the Scottish Government. And that's interesting to try and get some healthcare education out there. So although we work very closely, ME Action Scotland works very closely with the UK, we also have some separate projects that are ongoing which keep us busy.
I mean, it sounds like you are constantly busy and quite rushed off your feet. But that must mean that you're always asking for new volunteers and you want more people to get involved. What would you say to people who are debating getting involved, and how can they get in touch?
They can get in touch through the ME Action UK website, or they can send an email to uk@meaction.net. And we're delighted to see people with a range of skills. You don't have to volunteer full time. If you want to just sign up and send a tweet one day, or you're always at Facebook, or you're very good at graphics, but you could only spend a few hours, that is very valuable to us. So we'd love to see you. And you can do what you want, and you can develop your skills as well. I think Janet and I have learned a lot about things like Hootsuite, social media, how to interview, not as well as Charlie, how to press the wrong buttons on videos. But it's challenging, and it's also fun, and it's great to see your efforts have an effect. And
there's a lot of support in the volunteer group as well, so that you're as Denise said earlier, the aim of Millions Missing is the message is you're not alone. But I think the same goes for the volunteer group. You never feel that you're alone when you're doing something. There's people to help you and back you up all the time.
No, definitely. I know from joining in the past kind of 2 years, you meet so many other people who have the same aims as you, but also understand what you're going through. And it's probably the only place where you think you feel that you can say, actually, I need to take 5 or I need to take 5 weeks. And it's really not a problem at all. But thank you both so much for speaking to me today and for all of your hard work. And thank you to the whole Emmy Action team as well. Millions Missing is a huge international calendar event and it means so much to everybody. So thank you ever so much and enjoy the big day.
Thanks, Charlie.
Thank you.
It's great to have Simon and Chris here with me today, founders of Leeds ME Network. Thank you so much for joining me and becoming a part of Leeds Millions Missing 2021. Leeds ME Network is a patient self-help group and was first created in 2012. The group aims to offer information and support to people across the city. They also host monthly support meetings via Zoom. Simon, could you tell me a little bit about kind of the reason for first starting Leeds ME Network?
Well, there was a previous Leeds support group which started in 1988, and Chris and I were involved with that, but it folded for various reasons in 2012. I think really it was a victory of its own success. It was a very active group. It took a lot of people on the committee really to run it. As people left, then there weren't people to replace them really. So I think in spite of the best efforts of those who were there, it just had to fold eventually in 2012. At that stage, Chris and I were patient representatives at the clinic in Seacroft, and we decided to see if we could set up another meeting because it was clear that another group was still needed to support people with ME. Also, there was problems at the clinic at the time, and we wanted to support the staff there that we knew. So that was another reason for saying.
Well, I mean, the group itself just seems to have just kind of grown and grown, isn't it? You've got quite a presence now in the Leeds ME community. I mean, Chris, when you've spoken to people throughout lockdown, have you felt that it's had an impact on the ME community or not?
Well, in some ways, during lockdown and coronavirus, obviously, perhaps the impact on ME people, particularly those who are more severely affected, bedbound, housebound, certainly, it's probably been impacting on those of us who are in that situation less than the average person who was always out and about because they could get out and about. But at the same time, we had other challenges to face. Mm-hmm. So lockdown, yes, it's impacted everybody. And maybe a lot of people with ME, the more, as I say, the more severe end, medium to severe end, it's definitely impacted them, but perhaps not in the same way as the general public. It's not just the frustration at not being able to go shopping or not being able to go out and about to cinemas and theatres, etc., when people can't get out and about anyway. But yet other challenges have come along during lockdown, which have affected negatively the ME community. Do you want me to state what that might be? Yeah, so in fact, I mean, it's a very simple one. I mean, it's not just people with ME, but getting shopping. I mean, a lot of us with ME, for example, get our supermarket shopping delivered. Well, once COVID came, lockdown came, the whole world and his dog decided to try and sign up for supermarket deliveries, which meant that it was incredibly difficult for us all to get those slots, to get that availability. It has improved during lockdown, particularly as certain major supermarkets, whose names I won't mention, decided that they would be more obliging to the previous customers who were struggling to get slots. They realized that actually, some of us actually needed the slot because we couldn't possibly go shopping in person or whatever. So that's eased up a bit. But that was one major factor, the inability to get the food delivered.
I think a silver lining, because obviously there was that huge impact on shopping and getting it delivered. And I know that was all over social media at the time, because people were genuinely struggling to get food in their house, which was not okay. But I do think that there is a silver lining of kind of the social aspect of life has gradually got more accessible online, and obviously working from home and little things. So you've kind of got the negatives and the positives as well. But I think, especially from kind of my opinion, the world has become more accessible from your bedroom now, and hopefully that's something that will stay, but we'll see.
Well, yes, indeed. And with Leeds ME Network, for example, instead of having their regular meetings, which they used to host once a month at the John Lewis Cafe in town, we've gone on to Zoom meetings. So it means that some of us have met people who we've never met before, because people have been able to do it from bed. They've been able to join the Zoom meetings. So that's been very interesting. And I think that's been one great asset, that those who perhaps formerly felt quite excluded from ever meeting with their peers or talking to other people with ME, blah, blah, can now join in if they want to through Zoom. Even those people who haven't been able to yet make a meeting, join in a Zoom meeting, are very pleased to have the option.
Definitely. I mean,
they might be able to, because it's just clashed with something that they've got on an appointment or whatever, or they're just not well enough that day, but they know it's there and that they can join in. They're welcome to join in. Whereas they would never have been able, these people perhaps, to make it to John Lewis Cafe.
Well, thinking of yourself, Chris, in fact, you hadn't been for several years, had you, to a real meeting?
Yeah.
When Zoom came along, you've been attending the meetings, which has been great.
Yes.
And Simon, how can people kind of get involved with the Zoom meetings? What's the best way for people to get in touch?
Yeah, the best way really is just to find our website, which hopefully should be easy enough.
People who are interested in joining the Leeds ME Network monthly Zoom meetings could go to www.leedsmenetwork.yolasite.com, and then they can find kind of the way to access it that way, can't they?
Give us your email, and then we'll send you the regular email newsletters, or you can contact directly through there is an email address given specifically for the Zoom meetings. So you can contact us through either of those email addresses. They're both on the website, so they shouldn't be difficult to find. And then we'll send you a code so you can come on to Zoom.
Fantastic. And how do you guys plan on celebrating Millions Missing this year? Are you kind of active on social media?
We are active on social media. We're both on Facebook and on Twitter as well. But Simon's got a wonderful reply to this question, so I'll let him go with that one.
Well, I just said we'll do whatever you tell us to do, Charlie, because I think it is great. I have made a few notes about this because we think it's great what ME Action and Millions Missing have done every year, really, in raising awareness of all the many people with ME who have disappeared from the lives they should have led through no fault of their own.
This year, people are doing the window displays, and there's so much going on. And I think on May the 12th, it's just going to be, social media is hopefully going to be full of all these images of people just across the UK connecting. And that's what Millions Missing is all about. And just because we can't meet in, our city squares this year and meet around, arguably more people can get involved and feel included. So it's probably going to be the most accessible Millions Missing that has ever been. So, there's positives to that as well. But what changes have you guys seen since starting Leeds ME Network? Have you had to change the way that you support people? Have you kind of seen the ME community grow? What have you seen?
Well, we used to get people phoning in. It was a helpline we had, and I used to get a call every day, pretty much from somebody. And these days, people don't really like to use the telephone very much. So we do still offer the telephone helpline if people want to phone it. But people need to reacquaint themselves with the technology, really, because people just aren't used to using the phone. What do you think, Chris?
Well, I wouldn't say that they don't know how to use a phone. Not everybody has a landline.
Not used to phoning so much. They're more used to sending texts or
Well, yeah, no, not everybody has a landline. I mean, we have mobiles, and we still have a landline. I think the thing is, a lot of people these days are used to doing messaging of one sort or another. You know, text messaging, iMessaging, whatever, messaging via Facebook, emailing, blah blah, and they don't so easily pick up the phone, particularly to strangers. So
Definitely.
we notice the lack of people who do need support. They can get support via us, but we're still doing it the old-fashioned way. If you can only send us your email details, and we'll arrange a time to speak to you on the phone. We're having to sort of spell that out to people because people are very reluctant. A lot of people, maybe it's only in this scenario where they're ringing people that they don't know for help or support or information. People seem to be more hesitant in the first instance.
Also, there are a lot of different other sources that people can get information, aren't there? There's not just the local group. There's all sorts of Facebook groups, which are very useful.
Yes,
definitely. And I think sometimes people find it easier to kind of, because it's quite a vulnerable position to put yourself in, isn't it? To call up and say, actually, I need support and I need help. And I think sometimes people, I mean, I know I would find it easier to send that in a message and hide behind my screen than I would to be able to say it to a voice over the phone. And I think, you know, I do think that's kind of a sign of the times at the minute as well. But it's good that people feel that they can reach out to you for support. And finally, obviously, is there anything that you would like to say to people who haven't come across Leeds ME Network before?
Just that you're very, very welcome. You, your loved ones, your carers, your friends, your family, whoever, you're very welcome to come and join us either on a Zoom meeting, and you know, you can introduce yourself if that's what you feel able to do, or and hopefully John Lewis again sometime. And also, we're wondering, this will depend on the coronavirus and the restrictions being lifted and how things go, but we're wondering about having an open air meeting in one of the parks or something this year, aren't we, Simon? That would, you know, weather permitting, obviously weather permitting, and toilet availability, because lots of the facilities have been shut in various places. But that is an option that we're looking at in a safe environment, an open air environment, to just, if people just fancy getting together or whatever.
Well, I've got to say, as someone who first came across Leeds ME Network about 2-3 years ago, it is such a lovely support group. And obviously it's not just kind of monthly when you come on the Zoom meetings or when you're in John Lewis that you speak to people. I'm speaking to people, you know, every week that I've met through the group. And it's just lovely to have people be supportive, but also for people to understand and to know that actually they live 10 minutes away. It's nice to have support, but to have local support, it means so much. So I really love Leeds ME Network, and I can't say to people enough that it's really worth looking at the website. And even if you can't come to Zoom meetings, just, you know, liking the Facebook page or the Twitter and you know, feeling connected that way helps. It helps a lot for me, and I'm sure it does for a lot of people.
Chris does a great job of updating the Facebook page every day. It's a really very good source of information. And something else I should mention as well, because people do ask, there isn't any charge for joining the group. No, you just get in touch with us, give us your email address, and you'll receive the regular newsletters, and then you can come along to our meetings or just make use of us in other ways.
And if people, I think if people also need signposting, if they feel that they're not sure, they've got an X problem, that they've got ME, or they may not even have a diagnosis yet, but they think they've got ME or whatever, they might need signposting to where to go next, how to get help next with whatever. And we do have lots and lots of resources where we can send people or share with people, that we can share with people.
Fabulous. Well, no, thank you both so much for chatting to me today and for all the work that you do for Leeds ME community. I really, really appreciate it. I know everybody else does as well in the city. So thank you ever so much. And I can't wait for kind of the next monthly support meeting. So thank you.
Yes, only in a couple of weeks.
Thank you.
Thank you
so much for your
excited to be joined by Janet Dafoe, who is well known throughout the ME community as Whitney Dafoe's mother. Many people, including myself, were first introduced to Whitney when his family appeared in Unrest. Both Ron and Janet are desperate to find a cure for ME and save the millions missing across the world, starting with their son. Janet is a licensed clinical psychologist who worked primarily with adolescents and children before staying at home to become a full-time carer for her son. Janet, since becoming a full-time carer, can you tell me now what your day looks like? Because obviously it has a massive impact on not only the person suffering with ME, but also their family as well.
Right now, my day is unpredictable because you never know when he's going to need something. And I spend a lot of time managing his medications and make sure we always have what we need for him, so he never has to wait for anything he needs. Talking to doctors, talking to insurance companies, talking to pharmacies, trying to make sure that he's got what he needs. And then we have a bell system. When he needs us, he rings the bell. And so somebody has to be here all the time. And Ron is usually busy working or on Zoom meetings for the research. So I'm here, and I can't really go anywhere because I'm, have to be available for him and to get him what he needs in the least obtrusive way possible so that he doesn't crash. So my life is basically consumed by taking care of him and making sure he gets what he needs when he needs it, and trying to help it so that he doesn't crash. And right now I'm out of town at a funeral, but it's the first time I've been able to leave for 10 years, really, or for very long, because but now we have a really good caregiver, and she managed to cover for me while I was gone. So it's been kind of amazing for me to be out in the world. I mean, really amazing. And to visit with my friend and be out in the forest where we are right now and go to this funeral that I just went to.
ME is such an isolating disease, not only for the patients, but for the rest of the family as well. So what would you say to families who are struggling with that, families who are having to care for children or parents with the disease?
The best thing I can think of to say is to try to find things that you can do that take you out of the disease realm, even for 5 minutes or a half an hour. Go for a walk, go get flowers in your house, read a book, get some AirPods and listen to a book while you're walking. I mean, anything you can do so that you have some moments that are not consumed by the disease really can help you. And it's hard not to lose touch with friends because they don't really understand. And I've struggled with that. But if you do have the opportunity to get together with friends, I think that can help too, because it keeps you with one foot in the other more normal world, which you used to belong to. And that can give you some energy and encouragement. And ask for help. That's another thing I would say. Ask for help from your friends. Keep them informed. Give them articles and things so that they know what you're going through. And just allow other people to be there as much as you can. I haven't done very good with that. And that's been hard. I think that's a really hard thing. It's good advice, but it's really hard to implement because friends often kind of drift away. Mm-hmm. But if I think if they knew what to do, that they could help you, they might do that. So that's kind of lame.
Not lame at all. I was going to ask you finally just a little bit about hope. I know that's something that's really important to you, and I think it's important for families with people who have ME to keep hope. And I know that's something that people often find difficult, but what gives you hope?
What gives me hope is my husband's research. And I know that he is a really, really amazing scientist, one of the most amazing scientists in the world, literally. and that he's solved many unsolvable problems in the past. And he's thinking about this all the time, and he has all these ideas. And I know that a lot of the patients don't even know about all these ideas because he's spending most of his time doing the research and thinking about it rather than writing things up, which is frustrating to many patients and also to fundraisers who want the write-up so they can raise more money. But that's why I have hope, is because I know that he's working on it and he's engaging other really good scientists to work on it. It's not just him. He's talking to people all over the world who are good scientists, getting them engaged in helping him. So that gives me the most hope. And the other area of hope is just looking at Whitney, who's really dedicating his life to helping people have hope and hang on if he can hang on. So that gives me more hope that there will be fewer people committing suicide and giving up, is that, Whitney is there staying alive and keep on fighting no matter what, which he's always going to do. What gives me hope is knowing all these patients. I have met so many amazing, wonderful people who have this disease. And I just feel like they're lifelong friends of mine now. And I have hope that there's going to be a day when I'm going to be able to get on a plane and go visit some of these people. I'm going to go to New Zealand and South Africa and Croatia and the Netherlands and Norway and all these, and England and all these places that have these wonderful people whose lives have been just ruined by this disease. And I don't really want to say ruined, because I think it feels like it's ruined. So many things are taken away from you, but if you focus on some pieces of gratitude or some little pieces of joy or something that you can manage to get a hold of each day, there's a piece of you, your own self, that's still there. And that is something to rejoice, that you're still there, that you really matter, that your life matters, you're a beautiful person. And the fact that you're a beautiful person on the inside out, even though you can't do things anymore, that is still there for you. And it can help you figure out how to be a little bit grateful for something in your life and hang on to that.
I think that's a really lovely message to take this Millions Missing. So thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. I really appreciate it. And obviously pass on all the best to Whitney as well.
Thank you. It's really been a pleasure meeting you and doing this interview. Thank you so much. It's fantastic to have Pippa Stacey here with me today. Pippa is from York and was diagnosed with ME in 2014. After her diagnosis, she was determined to make a difference for the chronic illness community. She's now a chronically ill writer and blogger with a huge following online. Pippa, firstly, thank you so much for joining me for Leeds Millions Missing. How are you?
Pretty good, thank you. Thank you very much for having me here. It's so nice to finally get to talk to you as well. Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. It's been a pretty busy time at the minute, but doing my best to pace myself, be sensible, and we are soldiering on.
It's not always the easiest thing to do, to kind of slow down and pace yourself. So I know that you're very busy with the work that you're doing in the charity sector and then all your kind of activism online as well. So you are really busy. But let's go back to when you were first diagnosed with ME. What was your family's understanding and your understanding as well of the disease?
For me, I was so grateful that my mum actually knew about ME before I did, because my own diagnosis was an absolute palaver. It took years and years and years. I had the typical experience that many people with ME will have had, where they go to the doctor for years. I would have been around 14, 15, so I had all the usual, oh, it's probably just hormones, you're probably just stressed over GCSEs, maybe it's an iron deficiency, all of that kind of stuff. And it was because of my mum's knowledge of ME and the true nature of ME that I even got a referral to a specialist. That in itself took about 4 years to get. And from there, my own knowledge, thankfully, has increased a lot. It was a very eye-opening experience, but yeah, and it just goes to show how important it is that we have ME awareness out there, not only for the people who are going through it, but for the general population, because you just never know when something like this is going to come into your life. So I'm very grateful for that.
I mean, no one is going to fight your corner as much as your mom. So having your mom there at appointments to be able to go, well, actually, I've seen this and I know this. It's so important, because 4 years can quickly turn into 14. You hear of people who are ill for so long, and 4 years is too long to be poorly and desperate for diagnosis. So I'm sorry that you had to go through that. But obviously,
I know a lot of people have it longer as well.
They really do. I mean, obviously now you channel all of your energies into campaigning for a better understanding of ME. What have you been up to in the last 12 months?
Oh, the last 12 months, lots of writing mainly. I had my book come out last year. It's called University and Chronic Illness, a Survival Guide, and that's a non-fiction book based on my own experiences of navigating the challenges of higher education with a condition like ME. I've written a few other ebooks as well, how to study online, how to network online, very much grounded in global events that have seen us all live our entire lives online. It's interesting that we're talking about this in the context of the last 12 months, given everything that's gone on. For a lot of people, life changed massively, and then for most of us, it's just been like business as usual. What else?
Make the world more accessible for people with ME and people with chronic illnesses, because if you're housebound with everything going online, it was almost as if the world opened up. So for everybody else, the world suddenly went into lockdown, but for so many people who were housebound, the world just opened up and you could access all these things that you were never able to do before. It was a really weird time.
It was, and it kind of ties in as well, because on the other side of my life, I work for a small charity called Astrid, and although it's a relatively new charity, before the pandemic, they were campaigning to make the employment sector more inclusive for people with long-term illnesses like ME. And we found that employers that were often putting up a bit of resistance, saying, oh no, work from home, no, we can't do that, it's impossible. And then fast forward to now, and it's like, okay, well, what's your excuse now? Yeah. So in that, it's very difficult to draw positives from what's been such a difficult time for so many, but I really hope that some of the changes we've seen in the last 12 months are here to stay, and the benefits they might have for people in our position are just immeasurable. So fingers crossed.
Definitely. And I know obviously earlier this year, your incredibly successful Spoonie survival kits came to an end, and that was after 7 years of sales. So the kits made a huge difference to the ME community by not only bringing joy, but also raising it was about, just over £8,000 for 15 different causes. So can you tell me about the idea behind the Spoonie survival kits? Because it just took off, didn't it?
Yeah, it's funny thinking back now, because it was about 7 years ago, and really Spoonie survival kits was the thing that kicked off everything for me. So back then I would have been diagnosed about a year into my diagnosis, about 5 years of being ill. I felt really lost, really without purpose. I felt like I wanted to do something, but as we know, volunteering and fundraising can often exclude people with chronic illnesses. Like, we're not exactly going to be doing a sponsored walk or a sponsored marathon or anything like that. So I just kind of thought, I'll put together these little survival kits. I called them Little Bags of Happiness, and I'm going to tailor them specifically for people with chronic illnesses. I raised some money to create the initial kits, and then I sold them online and donated a large chunk of the sales income, not just the profits, to different chronic illness charities. In that time, we covered a fair few of the ME causes. We raised a couple of £1,000s for different ME causes, which I'm really proud of. And yeah, it was just lovely to see the impact they had on people. It was such a positive thing for me to enjoy, but the fact that it had such a positive influence on other people as well it's one of my proudest achievements. And it did feel as if it was time for it to come to an end, because it was really difficult to balance and pace on top of all the other work that I do now. So it felt like a very natural time to bring it to an end. But yeah, it was such a happy thing, and something I look back on and smile and I'm really proud of. And although that's coming to an end, it's definitely not the end of my fundraising.
No, definitely not. I mean, Spoonie survival kits were kind of the whole reason that I found you online. And I know so many people, it was just something you kept seeing on news feeds and on Twitter, and it was just everywhere. And I just thought, wow, these are incredible. And they're just a small kind of niche that it's one of those things you don't think of, but actually it meant so much to people. And then, you're having these little bags of happiness and then raising money for so many different charities. It was such a good idea. So you should be really proud. It was fantastic. But I mean, what's next for you? What projects have you got in the pipeline? Are you happy to share any with us?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be one of those really annoying people who's like, I can't talk about it quite yet. There's a few different more creative projects in the chronic illness niche that are coming up in the next year or so that I'm really proud to have been a part of. Lots more writing, especially with ME Awareness Month, which this will be going out during. Lots of writing for lots of different causes. Lots of online shenanigans as usual. And yeah, just bits and pieces, lots of work on the charity sector side of things. I'm working with a few different charities. Astrid is my priority at the minute. And yep, just taking it as it comes, doing my best to finally learn how to pace myself properly and enjoying it as much as I can.
Fantastic. And obviously, Millie, as you said, ME Awareness Month is a huge month in kind of the chronic illness calendar. So what have you got planned? How are you going to celebrate Millions Missing?
Oh, it's a good one. And again, it's strange because everything's online. It would have been so nice. I remember us talking maybe a couple of years ago about maybe going to Leeds and doing the thing in Leeds. And hopefully that will happen at some point in the future. I have online content planned. My biggest audience is on Instagram, and I have lots of people outside of the ME community. So I've got a few things planned on there to push that out a little bit. Because of my work, I'm also very lucky to get to do talks in schools and in with employers, with organisations. So I've got a couple of those booked in, and while they're not exclusively about ME, they're a really good opportunity to share my lived experiences, share some of the difficulties we go through, and just hopefully encourage people to be allies as well. So yeah, that's the plans for May. I've got it all paced out in my calendar, lots of rest breaks in between, just hoping for the best.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for, I mean, it sounds like you're very busy. So thank you for taking some time to chat to me today and be a part of Leeds Millions Missing 2021. And hopefully we'll be able to catch up again in the future and maybe, fingers crossed, even have an event in Leeds City Centre at some point and have you speak. But no, lovely catching up with you, and we'll keep an eye on your work.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Lovely to talk to you too.
I'm delighted to have Bill Clayton here with me today, who is the founder of York ME Community. Thank you so much for joining me and becoming a part of Leeds Millions Missing 2021. Bill runs York ME Community, which has been a hub of support and information for people with ME since being founded in 2016. The group has grown over the past 5 years and now has a website, Facebook and Twitter page where sufferers can access information 24/7. Bill, do you want to start off by telling me a little bit about the reason for starting York Community Group?
Yeah, no problem. It was really having gone through the process of being diagnosed myself, which took about 5 years. I soon realised that there was next to no support after you'd left the GP where they couldn't do anything for you. Yes, we have the Yorkshire Fatigue Clinic, which is very good here as well, but again, they can only advise you on how to manage it. At that point, or at a point, they then say bye-bye. And it was just a case of realizing that there's so many people out there with ME that it just felt right to create some sort of support group so that they could get support from others in York that would understand.
That's fantastic, because I mean, I know a lot of people, it's kind of pacing and things, isn't it, that clinics can mostly offer. And with around 1,000 people in York actually suffering from ME, it has a huge impact on people's lives. I mean, how does it impact your life?
It's a daily thing, and I can't say from one day to the next how it's going to affect me. The last couple of days I've been very shaky. Earlier on today I tried to stand up and got funny looks because it took me about a minute to stand up because my legs weren't working for me. So different days, different symptoms, I'm afraid. Brain fog, which you'll know, I'm sure, enough about. But it's forgetting words, not being able to understand words, simple words, the physical side of it, having absolutely no energy. And it's not tiredness like people have a busy day at work. It's real, it's like being under a rugby scrum, you know, and trying to stand up, if you like.
It's crippling, isn't it? It really is. But well, fantastic. Well, so just tell me a little bit then, because obviously over the past few years, Leeds ME activism has kind of stepped up, and we've got to chat more and more. How important do you think it is for kind of neighbouring cities to join together in the fight for more better health equality for people with ME? How important do you think that is?
I think it's a great idea. I think what highlighted it for me was, I think it was last year or the year before, where the Leeds group were running a Missing Millions, I won't say demonstration, but event where you were getting together. And I knew that my group weren't up to doing that, but a few of them went over and joined. So they felt they were doing something which made them feel good. And it boosted your numbers possibly slightly, not by many, but slightly. But I think it's the ideas that you can maybe share, things that we might find, oh, that works, you maybe haven't tried, or the other way around. So yeah, I think it'd be a great thing actually to have a bigger connection network, maybe in Yorkshire.
I couldn't agree more, because I mean, Yorkshire is, you know, the biggest county in England, and it's so important for us to be able to kind of chat to each other, see what's working in your city and what's working in ours. And I know that a lot of the activism that you do will rub off on us and help us as well. And because you've got kind of such a big following now for the group, it's only better that people have more and more kind of resources that they can go to. I mean, lockdown in general has affected people in so many different ways. Obviously, people with ME have been in their own kind of personal lockdown for years. But do you think that lockdown has affected people with ME?
Strangely, not really. Like you say, I think people with ME are already used to being housebound quite a fair bit of the time, and dare I say, we see some of it as a positive, in that those with long COVID have an overlapping set of symptoms to those with ME, and I think we can piggyback on the research that's coming out from long COVID, and we've got the chance to actually raise our voices at the moment, which I think a lot of people are doing. I'm certainly doing, and it's being heard, and I think we can take more positives, strangely, from this situation than negatives.
I think it's made a lot of things more accessible, because people have been forced to do things online. People have been forced to have even silly things like deliveries. Everything has become more accessible for people. And I think people with ME are so often trapped inside their houses. Sometimes they're trapped inside their beds. And having kind of further accessibility for people is only going to be a good thing, and something that I hope, once the pandemic has calmed down and lockdown has calmed down, that actually those things stay and people can still access them. And I know that you yourself have been really busy throughout the pandemic trying to better the support for people with ME, such as fighting for them to get placed into priority group 6 for the vaccine. So do you want to tell me a little bit more about that and about what you've been doing to try and help people?
Well, really, it was just annoying to start with, the fact that you know, we weren't being recognised in the group that we should be recognised in. It's stated in all the documentation that came out that we are a neurological illness, can't even say the word properly now, that condition should be in group 6, and yet we were being ignored. So I was getting messages out to our local MPs, councillors, all the GP practices in York, saying what's going on here. It was useful that we had the template from the ME Association, which highlighted these things, pushed that out to everybody as well. But a lot of my group, especially that I'd spoken to, it wasn't working. I had a conversation, a good long chat with the chairman of Nimbus Care, who run 11 GP practices in York, and he apologised for his hands being tied, but because the fact that word had come from above that it was a GP's decision, he wasn't allowed to change that, and it was therefore down to GPs. And again, frustration that a number of GPs don't treat ME patients as they should do.
No, I know so many people were finding it frustrating because every kind of organisation that could was fighting for this, and people were having their own personal battles just to be able to kind of speak to their GP, because everyone was kind of so busy and overran that even getting that phone call to try and argue why you should be in group 6, that itself was a struggle. And then it was very much up to the GP and their understanding of ME. I myself was really lucky. I know a few other people were as well, but the overwhelming story that you were hearing from people was that they were struggling to get on group 6. I know there's people still now that haven't been able to do that. And for people, for instance, like myself, who are much younger, who are in kind of their 20s, they're going to be waiting an awful long time for the vaccine. And it's appalling, really. And I know that ME Action themselves are doing as much as they can, the ME Association are, but there's only so much they can do. At the end of the day, it rests with the GP at the moment, and it's potluck who your GP is.
Yeah.
And
go on.
No, go on.
Well, I was just going to say that if I thought of it earlier, it might have been a good exercise to understand and make a list of those GPs who weren't putting people forward. And then know that they're the ones that need educating.
Yeah.
Well, as a follow-up to this, that's the people that we should be targeting and saying, look, you with being a doctor, it's part of your remit to stay educated in whatever illnesses are out there. And hey, this is a biggie, and you should know about this for your patients that come to your practice looking for help.
Definitely, when you've got so many people across the UK who have ME, it's such a big disease to not be educated on. And with the kind of the revamp of the NICE guidelines and them drafting those at the minute, it's about keeping up to date with currently what the understanding is of ME, and the understanding is that it should be in group 6. However, not all GPs are kind of up to date with that, which is heartbreaking for a lot of people. And then on to a happier note, how are you planning to celebrate Millions Missing this year? I know you'd mentioned before that kind of you haven't got capacity to be able to organise anything in York. So how are you planning to celebrate the day?
I think most of the day I'll be sat with a laptop on social media and pushing out the message. What I'm hoping will happen on that day, I've recorded a couple of interviews, and I've got another radio interview to do with York Mix Radio, which is going out on the 12th, I hope, fingers crossed, all going well. And also the council are going to be looking to light up one of the public buildings in blue in York. So the idea would be make sure I get pictures of that over the week, and I'll be pushing them out to various groups, and again, just anything that's going to raise awareness and let people know what we're all about.
I mean, that all sounds fantastic. So finally, do you have a message that you'd like to share kind of on behalf of the York ME community group? Anything that you'd like to say to people who maybe haven't accessed your support before?
Well, nothing really, other than just to say that we are here for people in the York area who want to learn more about it, need support, families, who are worried maybe about their kids. Is it ME that they have? They might have a doctor who's unsympathetic to this condition, and anybody wants to reach out, I'm here for them. And it doesn't necessarily mean to join the group. You can go to the website, and my contact details are there if they want to just get in touch directly and we can chat.
I think talking to each other is one of the biggest things, because often people with ME can feel so isolated because one, people don't always understand, and two, there isn't always kind of that information to access. It can often be hard to actually find where all that information is in one place. So I think it's great work that you're doing. But thank you so much, Bill, for talking to me today and sharing some of the incredible work that you're doing. for people with ME in York. I know it makes a huge difference. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thanks very much.
Hello, thanks so much for chatting with me today for Virtual Millions Missing. Let's kick off. Can you introduce yourself and describe a bit about what your role is in Millions Missing and where you do it in the country?
Yeah, of course. Thank you ever so much for having me. So I'm based in Leeds city centre. My name is Charlie Wainwright and I headed up Leeds Millions Missing in 2019, and my Leeds activism hasn't really stopped since then. So I was diagnosed with ME when I was just 11 years old. So I'm 24 now, so I've actually been diagnosed for over half my life. And I dedicate as much time as I can to increasing ME activism in Leeds and fighting for all of us here with the disease.
That's great. So I guess that already gives us a bit of my question of the why, but I wanted to ask, how did you get involved with Millions Missing and find out about it?
So back in 2018, I attended my first ever Millions Missing event. I'm originally from the Midlands, so I went all the way back home and went to Birmingham's 2018 Millions Missing event, and I had never before met anybody else with my disease. I'd never stood next to somebody else who had their own stories of living with ME, and to stand there and see hundreds of shoes, hundreds of people and all these bright red t-shirts, I was just so overwhelmed. And then the very next day I made my dad drive me all the way up to Manchester and go to another Millions Missing event with me, and we both stood there in the city centre, absolutely cried our eyes out, and it was such a bonding moment for us that I thought, actually, I'm seeing all these people fighting for the disease that I have. Why can't I do the same? And from that moment on, I thought I want to be more proactive in my ME activism, and I want to fight for not only my health but for other people's health too. And that's where the idea came from of, why am I travelling to different cities to celebrate Millions Missing? Why am I not hosting it in the city that I've lived in for 5 or 6 years? And that's exactly what I did the year after.
That's incredible. And I totally empathise with you as well. I don't think I've never made it through Millions Missing without sobbing. It's such an emotional day and time being in that space. So I can picture you and your dad doing that too. So when you think back to that Millions Missing in Leeds in 2019, what are there any moments that kind of stand out to you that really illustrate what Millions Missing is all about?
Yeah, definitely. For me personally, I think a lot of people have felt the same, whereas when I was first diagnosed, and for a good probably 10 years, I did not want anybody to know that I had ME. I lived in a house of 6 other people at university, and it was very much a need to know basis. So not even everybody I lived with was aware of why I was taking tablets every day, and why some days I couldn't get out of bed, and why sometimes there was ambulances. And they didn't understand that. But I became to a point where, after going to the Millions Missing in Manchester, I thought, why am I hiding this? Why am I ashamed of a disease that sometimes means I can't walk? So for me, standing there right at the start of Leeds 2019 event, the very first event in Leeds city centre for Millions Missing, I looked out and there was friends and family, but there's also complete strangers, and everybody had that same kind of look of emotion on their face of, we know why we're here today. And I have never before struggled so much to put 2 words together, and I was a bubbling mess. And for me, I've never felt that way, and it was incredible to know, actually, we are fighting for something so important. And then throughout the day in Leeds in 2019, you were seeing people come up and share their stories. You were seeing people come over and put shoes on the floor with their own stories on. And I thought, it's taken so much courage for me to stand here and share my story, and it's taken so much courage for them too, but together we're so much stronger. And to be able to do that right on your doorstep, it's incredible.
It is, and those stories, I think that's something we all recognise as part of Millions Missing being such a powerful part of what people do. What is one of your personal highlights from Millions Missing?
One of my personal highlights would be seeing other people have the strength to stand up and share their most vulnerable part of themselves. And you can see people when they stand up in front of strangers sharing what they've been through, how scared they are, but nothing is more scary than being as poorly as we can be. So for them to be able to do that and share their truth and how poorly they really are, you know, you look at these people and they don't look that poorly. You look at me and I don't look really poorly. But on Millions Missing, to see everybody join together, and you don't need to persuade somebody how poorly you can be. It's such a unifying thing to do, and I really can't wait for the next Millions Missing event when we can all stand together. But for now, it'll be lots of Zoom meetings and social media hashtags, and that's enough. Just knowing that other people are there and other people want the same things as you.
Definitely. And I think that's something we know that our community is really good at, gathering online and making things happen in virtual spaces when we have to, because we can't always, even outside of a pandemic, be together in that way. I was wondering, what do you think Millions Missing achieves?
I think Millions Missing achieves two things. I think our disease often doesn't get much press coverage, but for one day a year, we are in the papers, we're on the TV, and all you can see is these bright red tops. And if you don't know what the bright red tops are about, then you're going, why are they all wearing that colour? Why do they all look like that? And, you know, the coverage that we do get often isn't great. So to be able to have all these stories shared across local newspapers, across social media and on TV, that's just fantastic. But not only the press side of it, the personal side of it as well. And, you know, having people turn up to these events and they drag along their family and friends, and slowly they're going, actually, I understand a little bit more about ME. Sometimes having your family or friend stand there and see other people talking about the exact same things that you've been going through, it helps to them explain a little bit more about what's going on. And I think that's really important.
Yeah, I've definitely seen that happen in person, sort of looks of realization dawning on people's faces. What are your hopes for Millions Missing in the future?
I really hope in the future that we can, one, meet in person again. I'd really like to, you know, listen to people's stories in person, to be able to hug people and say, well done, or I'm here for you. I want to see dogs in Millions Missing t-shirts. I want to see banners across city centres. I want it to be so overwhelming again, because I think in the past year alone, we are constantly striving forward, and we are getting somewhere, and we're actually gaining momentum as well. And by the end of this year, the NICE guidelines will have changed, and that in itself is so exciting. And without campaigns such as Millions Missing, I really don't think that would be possible. And at the end of the day, no one is going to fight for our health better than us. So for one day a year, we should join together, fight as much as we can, and at the end of the day, we'll probably also have a lot more friends with ME too. So it's a fantastic day, and I can't wait for it to be back in person.
I couldn't agree more. I think I've been saying that, just talking about it all and reliving all those memories is definitely making me feel quite nostalgic for that, but I'm confident that we'll get there. Great, thanks so much for joining me today, Charlie, and for chatting with me about all the amazing stuff that you've done for Millions Missing and made it happen in Leeds. And we hope you have a great one this year.
Thank you ever so much.
Thanks.
Thank you all so much for joining me today for Leeds Millions Missing 2021. I hope you've enjoyed the exclusive interviews that have gone live throughout today, but if you have missed anything at all or just want to re-watch something, then you can catch up on our YouTube channel, Facebook page, and on the website ME and Me. Leeds ME activism continues every single day, so please do keep up to date via the website www.me-and-me.blog and on the Facebook page. I hope you've had a great Millions Missing, and we'll see you next year.